Ears and Beers, episode 53. A little stress-free selection Sunday, but not for the right reasons. But before we get into it, this is Ears and Beers, the podcast. I'm Wesley Uhler. He's Adam Crowley. And as always, to get us started, Mr. Crowley, what are we drinking?
Coffee, black. How about you?
So I'm going to surprise you. It is 8:06 a.m. on Sunday as we record this. Normally when we do these early pods, I'm drinking coffee as well, too. But you know what?
Whoa!
I've got a Labatt Blue. It's the morning after St. Patrick's Day. There's snow all over the ground here in western Pennsylvania. I might as well just tie one on and keep it going here. So, salute.
Are you feeling it from last night? You're trying to help yourself a little bit. Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, a little hair of the dog. And, I mean, honestly, by the time I finish this thing, it'll probably just be one of those, like, pick up your buzz where you left it type things. I'm a little concerned where these 12 ounces could take me, but hey, Prost. Sláinte, sorry.
I'll tell you what, Sláinte, that looks really good. And I'm going to the hockey game today here in Pittsburgh. And yeah, a Labatt Blue.
Tastes like hockey.
Yeah, I'm gonna have about 17 of those.
I love
17 of them's, and then the Uber's gonna drop me in front of my house, and I'm gonna watch Selection Sunday and not remember filling out my bracket. That's my plan.
I'm like looking here. If you're watching this on YouTube, I mean, my eyes clearly look like somebody who only got a few hours of sleep last night. And that is both because the booze and because I have a 4-month-old daughter, who just got her first taste of daylight savings.
You got to talk to her, man. Respect the daylight savings, kid.
I mean, come on,
Respect
kids. What are we
it.
doing here?
Respect it. I mean, today's the kind of day where you should be sleeping until 9 and just you got to recover from yesterday. And the little ones, they don't care. They have no clue. They have no idea.
They're just living, and you know what? God bless them for that, because somebody needs to be out here just living. Crowley, I figured we could start this by bringing this full circle. When you and I think did like our first basketball podcast of this season, right? Probably sometime back in November, early in the year, when we were kind of balancing, struggling through the end of the football season and some stuff going on with the offense, and getting into basketball season. You and I both stated, we agreed here on the podcast, Ears and Beers, that our goal was to get to Selection Sunday and not be nervous. Right, that was kind of what we wanted for this team. Get to Selection Sunday, have a good enough resume, be confident enough that we're not sitting on the bubble.
We did it, baby!
A stress-free Sunday. Well, I guess in a way, this is a stress-free Sunday, huh? Maybe just not how we wanted.
Take me home. I mean, we did it, man. We're not on the bubble.
We're not on the
no
bubble.
Stress.
Mission
We're
accomplished.
Good, baby. Here we go. We did it. And Virginia Tech punched their ticket to the dance.
Yeah.
It's funny, Wes. I hate Virginia Tech. I hate Pitt. But Virginia Tech basketball, if you go back and you look at their history, I can't even be mad that they got to have fun last night, because their program is such an absolute joke and has been forever. Buzz Williams came in and was like, hey, we're sort of okay. I mean, just a little more decent. And besides that, there's been a whole lot of junk, so I don't care.
It's just so fitting in this year that, and we'll talk about this in a minute, as long as WVU doesn't play a postseason tournament, which they could go NIT, doesn't sound like CBI is on the table. They could go NIT. We'll find out about 12 hours from now, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, when the NIT bracket rolls out.
They ain't going, but go on.
First time since 2001, 2002 that football and men's basketball have both had a losing season in the same year. First time in 20 years. I mean, jeez. I was in 5th grade, 6th grade the last time this happened. The cherry on top of this dreadful season for football and hoops combined is that Pitt wins the ACC in football and Virginia Tech wins the ACC in basketball. And just the worst year for the ACC that I can remember in my 31 years of watching college sports. Like, it's a joke, man. And of course, those two putz programs that we hate reap the benefits of just how crappy that conference was in football and in hoops this year. But at least Virginia Tech beat Duke. Better than a Coach K love fest. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I don't care about Virginia Tech basketball.
Yeah,
Virginia
I don't really
Tech
either.
Football, okay. If we were playing Virginia Tech, I mean, I would be seething, and I'd probably bite a Tech fan walking into the Coliseum, just get him in the jugular. But it just we're not playing. I don't care about their basketball program. I really don't. What have they ever done? We've been to the Final Four, got 5 Sweet 16s with Bob Huggins. We had the Beeline. We are so far above the Virginia Tech basketball program that I don't even care about them. It's a down year for West Virginia, no doubt. And I thought you were going to say the cherry on top was Bob Huggins getting tossed from the Big 12 tournament game. And let me
Yeah,
tell you something.
give me your take on this, because I did a quick little ramble on Thursday, but let's get into this. Yeah.
I'm happy it happened. Really
Yeah, me
am.
too. Me too.
Because he sticks up for his guy in Taz Sherman because it was junk. And then beyond that, I think the fan base understands that Huggins still cares. Not that there was doubt, but that fire burns deep in that man's
Yeah.
rather large belly. He cares. He doesn't want to lose. He says it all the time. He detests losing. And you can tell this season was hard on him. And
Yeah.
a lot of that's his own doing. He is the head coach of the basketball program, but I think the fan base got some catharsis through Bob Huggins, the surrogate of Bob Huggins. 2 good words. Bang, bang. Daylight savings ain't got junk on me. I was happy it happened. It was the best part of that game, too. West Virginia made it competitive-ish at times in the second half until they didn't again. I'm happy it happened. Good for Bob. Go get him this offseason. You take that fire that's in your gullet and you bottle it and you go recruit and you hit that portal and you make West Virginia hoops great again.
Well, let's save that thought too, because we'll talk about that in regards to should they play one of these postseason tournaments, or should they just turn the page and close this chapter and try and start looking ahead to next season. But you're absolutely right. I think what we saw from Bob Huggins there was a cumulative. See, you're using the big words. I try and throw one out. Can't do it. Still drunk. You're using or what we saw was a cumulative effect, I think, of 2 things. The first that you tweeted out on our Eers and Beers Twitter account during the game, just a culmination of a decade of frustration as it relates to Big 12 officiating. Listen, we're not the only ones that deal with it, but in this conference, we are the only team in this conference that's not in the Central Time Zone. We are the only East Coast team in this conference. We are the drunken stepchild of the Big 12. And from football to basketball to everything in between, it feels like we never get the benefit of the doubt. Everyone remembers some of the ref shows notoriously that we've had out at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. And again, we're not the only ones that deal with that, but it's a cumulative a thing. From Clint Trickett getting his head ripped off against TCU and nothing being called, from TJ Simmons blocking too well out of bounds against Oklahoma, right?
What are you doing to me?
There's just a decade of us getting that stepchild treatment from the Big 12 in football and in basketball, particularly when we play the Oklahomas and the Texases of the world, particularly when we play Kansas in hoops. And again, if you watch the Big 12 championship game, Texas Tech and Kansas last night, we're not the only ones who deal with that when you're playing against Kansas. But I think it was a cumulative effect of a decade of that frustration from Bob Huggins.
Yep.
And I think it was the cumulative effect of just a very frustrating year. Losing a lot of close games. Losing 14 of your last 16 down the stretch, something that no matter where you think this team is, how good, how bad, this team should not have lost 14 out of 16 down the stretch. This team should not have gone an entire Big 12 season without winning a true road game, right? Until you got to the tournament. That's the only road game you won in conference play, and that's not really a road game.
No.
You didn't win in Manhattan, Kansas. You won against Kansas State at a neutral site, even though obviously, yes, it's much closer for K-State fans than it is for WVU fans, and much less of a commute for the Wildcats than for the Mountaineers. But you get what I'm saying there. I think in that moment, you see Taz get pancaked by 3 or 4 guys. And listen, I know how that is too with refs. Taz, I understand why he was. I don't blame him for it. I don't hate it. You can't be demonstrative against officials in play. That's one of those things that they've just cracked down on basketball. They do that in the NBA too. If the refs think you showing them up, especially one that's as big as a jabroni and has as thin of skin as Doug Sirmons does, 50% of the time what Taz did, you're probably going to get teed up.
Yeah, I don't got a problem with Taz being teed. It's
It's
just
just
that they missed the call
they missed the
initially.
call, and they've done it. Like it's the cumulative effect, and
And
I think we
Euler.
saw a long history of officiating frustration and just the effect of this season that has been very tough on Bob Huggins and frustrating as well too. I think we saw that all come out there in a a triple technical moment for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, and listen, we're not such homers that we're gonna sit here and say that the reason they lost the game was because of
No,
this. That ain't what
no.
it's about. But we saw
They,
there
sh-
was a
they shot
base
16% from the field in the first half.
dude. Oh Christ, dude, there was a play on the on going out of bounds where Doug Sirmons switches the call, right? And they ultimately got it right, but it was like 3 seconds later, he runs over whistle. Oh, we're gonna switch the call. Then there's a ball that's clearly deflected out of bounds by a Kansas player. And West Virginia does not get the same. Doug Sirmons runs over and goes, "Hey, this was clearly effed up. You could see it on TV. You had to have been able to see it in person. Just a bad call, missed call." And then there's ticky tack stuff the other way. And then Taz gets, I mean, listen,
Sandwiched.
let me tell you something, Mueller. Those Kansas kids, you could throw them in prison. What they was doing to Taz Sherman, you can throw them kids in prison. Okay. They're mugging this dude. And there's nothing. So it's frustrating. It's the cumulative effect. That's a tough word. I almost
It is a
stumbled on
tough.
it too.
It's a tough
Yeah,
word.
really.
We gotta stay away from that one the morning after.
That's
St.
that's
Patrick's
our
Day.
Everest. The 8 a.m. podcast recordings, we can't say cumulative. Okay. It's just, whoa, wait,
Can't do it.
stop the podcast now. So I get it. I get the frustration. I would love to see West Virginia play in the NIT if they're invited.
Yeah.
History suggests that they won't be invited. It's not even so much that it's just they'd have young guys that they would get some run, because I'm not even sure that would happen. It's just I like to watch my team play basketball, and might head down to the Coliseum. So why not? I would
You
say
know what?
yes, but they're not going to get invited.
That's a very good point. You and I have, we've through some of the frustrations of the football season this past year. You and I talked about that too. Like, you just like being able to watch your teams play.
We got geeked for the bowl game.
You can, yeah, we got
You
geeked
were
for the
texting
bowl.
me at like 6 a.m. Let's go, game day. Here
We got geeked for the bowl game that was at 10:30 on a Tuesday night. Like, you like to watch your teams play, and the good and the bad. I think that's one of the signs of someone who's truly invested, right? Is that you just look forward to your team playing, even if you know that most likely it's going to be a tough watch. That's, I think, one of the hallmarks of someone. Again, I'm not saying true fans and fake fans and all that, but just someone who's really invested, truly invested. You want to watch your team play no matter what the circumstances are, and that's a good point that you make there. But I mean, we had 7 guys walk on senior day. Like, there's going to be a hopefully a substantial amount of turnover on this roster. I'm with you. I would like to watch them play a couple more times just because it's WVU basketball, and I love the Mountaineers. But part of me, just turn the page, just start focusing on next year, hit
Well,
the portal, start recruiting,
I'll tell you
and
what.
figure out how to fix it.
It is about watching them. Huggins won't do it this way, but if I were Bob Huggins, and I would be for 80K,
90K,
got
remember? Inflation.
gas prices, supply lines. I would play Seth Wilson and Kobe Johnson and Isaiah Cottrell a whole bunch, and I would and Okonkwo, and I would flow the off, even though they might try to see if they can redshirt him, although that doesn't seem likely. I would try to flow the offense through JB, make him the featured guy. Like I would do it like that. Not to say Taz wouldn't play and McNeil wouldn't play, but I would do it that way. He won't do it that way if they're gonna play in the NIT, which they won't. But if they were going to, I think they would want to try to win the whole thing. But that's not how I would do it. JT Daniels, Big East champs 2010. I mean, where are we going here?
Here's where we're going here real quick. So, along this referee conversation, right? The Doug Sirmonses of the world, the idiot referees who stink so bad at their job that we know their names like household names. Not like an Ed Hockley household name, because Ed Hockley was just jacked and like funny to watch as a referee in the NFL. Like, everyone knows this guy's name because every fan base hates him. I was reading. I like to read the Rivals fan boards. Okay, I
Careful.
do.
Be careful.
Moment of transparency. Okay, I do.
Dangerous game.
I don't even take them with a grain of salt. Okay, I take them with like a gallon of salt. The things that are said there on those,
Like the stuff you put out there when it snows.
Yes, exactly. Like I had to put out in my driveway a bunch of times yesterday. Someone on the Rivals board was talking about how John Higgins, another referee that we all know his name and we all dislike him, can't officiate Kentucky basketball games currently because he is in the middle of a lawsuit with a University of Kentucky affiliated radio station, with like their flagship station. So this UK radio station, the flagship station of UK basketball, and John Higgins are in the middle of a lawsuit, and because of that, conflict of interest, the NCAA won't let John Higgins officiate Kentucky basketball games. So what I'm asking you,
I'm picking it up.
what I'm asking you, Adam Crowley and Mountaineer Nation, is will you join me in a never-ending line of class action lawsuits against Doug Sirmons?
Doug Sirmons and Higgins, frankly. I'm in. I'm in. Whatever we got to do, we're doing it.
You want to do a little 2010 memory lane here too before we get out? We had a tweet that did some numbers over the weekend.
My tweet.
You son of a! You see what he's doing there?
And
no, it's our tweet, okay? Everything that's out on that account is ours. It's not. Well, not Wes Uhler's. It's not Adam Crowley's. It's ours, baby.
You would say that as the guy who didn't send the tweet.
Oh yeah.
And now the people don't know what to believe. Now the people don't know. You got to plant that seed of that. They don't know.
That seed of that. 2010 memory lane, man. This
you
time of year.
By the way, it was a Uhler tweet.
I always get nostalgic for the Big East this time of year. Jerry
McNamara is running around in the back of your mind.
We've talked about how much we miss the Big East and particularly the basketball tournament ad nauseum. Every WVU fan, every Big East fan has done that. But man, that 2010 team, the run that they went, they lose the UConn in February, and then they don't lose a game again until April against Duke in the Final Four. And, that Big East tournament in 2010, the epic 3-night run, like beating Cincinnati on a buzzer beater, comes down to last shot against Notre Dame, comes down to last shot against Georgetown. Like, here's what I equate that to. You and I were freshmen at school then. Uh-huh. Like, my mom sometimes will talk to me about, like, what it was like to see Bruce Springsteen back in the 80s. He'd come to Pittsburgh and he'd play 3 nights in a row, or we'd go out to Philly and watch him play 3 nights. The way that my uncles talk about, like, we went and we saw the Stones, or we went and we saw the Grateful Dead for 3 straight nights, at Buckeye Lake in Ohio or whatever. That was our equivalent. That was my equivalent. That 3-night run of just epic wins in the Big East tournament. And we were freshmen at WVU, but that, looking back on it, that might be my fondest weekend in Morgantown, at least sports related. It was just so much fun winning the Big East for the first time, doing it in Madison Square Garden with 5 starters who were all from that era. Ooh, I'm whooshing, buddy, early here. This is going to be a tough day.
Area is another banned word at the 8 a.m. podcast. No more talking about areas.
But that just, I understand why that tweet took off like it did, because it's so easy, particularly in a down year that this has been for Mountaineer football and basketball, to get nostalgic about that time.
Yeah, man. It's the ex-girlfriend that you love to have sex with. I mean, it was a great time, and you just remember it so fondly, but it's gone. And it brings a tear to your eye. Those games were so ugly and so beautiful all at the same time. and the magic of the New Jersey and New York City boys and being introduced, and then the jig that John Flowers is doing, Bob Huggins crying afterwards when they're playing Country Roads.
Spike Lee sitting on the sideline with that just depressed look on his face because another one of his teams couldn't win a big game in his favorite arena.
It was the best. And then, of course, you follow it up with the NCAA tournament run,
beating that Kentucky team. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, like, that was one of those nights. I wasn't hanging out with folks on that night. Like, I was so nervous. I watched the game in my dorm at Summit.
Did you?
And then like when the shot goes down, right? The whole building, you can just feel the whole street out on
Grants right there. Yeah.
And then I got a text from a buddy. Like, we had talked about win, lose, whatever, we're going to drink after the game. But I was just so friggin' nervous, and shot goes down. meet me out on Grant. And we went from house party to house party, and the streets are just filled with maniacs, and couches are being burned. And you mentioned this via text when we were talking. That was the first time you saw a couch burn.
First time I saw a couch burn.
Same thing with me. That was the best. That was even better to me than the tournament, because we were on campus.
Yes.
And it was just, I mean, it's everything that Morgantown promised, right? Whenever you were going to go to WVU, what's it going to be like?
That's a great way to say it. Yeah.
It was the best of times, man.
So I lived in Dadisman freshman year, right? And my older cousin Jared, who was a senior at WVU our freshman year.
Funniest guy I ever met, by the way.
Yeah, that's your boy. He loves you too.
Love that guy.
Jared lived right up the street. Like, I lived at Dadisman because Jared told me that was the dorm that was closest to his house. He lived right up College Avenue. Like, I could walk from Dadisman to Jared's house in 5 minutes, tops. Like, he lived right above Dadisman off College Avenue. So we watched all 3 nights there, 3 epic watch parties. It was just scenes in his living room every night because, again, every night was an epic win. And I think like Deshaun Butler hits that shot, right? And I think before even Georgetown goes down and misses their opportunity to tie the game at the buzzer, like Jared's roommate Les, he like had the couch out in the street already, I think, before the musket shot. Like in that span of like 2-3 seconds there, Les like just whoop, like Superman lifted this couch out of the house and into the street. Yeah, it was pandemonium, and that's a great way to put it. It was everything that Morgantown promised to be that weekend, and particularly that Saturday night.
The other 2 weekends, and I'll make it quick here, the only other 2 that I felt were like that were when West Virginia beat South Florida to basically guarantee the Orange Bowl.
Yep, to win the Big East in football. Yep.
Where, you kick the last second field goal and then the streets are filled and there's beer on your ceiling because everyone's going nuts.
Yep.
And then the other one was when we beat Texas. We went on the road
and first Big 12
5-0. Yeah, with Gino and
the fourth down Tavon touchdown.
We lived on what the hell? Where we live?
You lived on Stewart Street, didn't you?
Stewart Street. Thank you, dear God. Maybe it's.
Listen, I'm the one who's drinking beers here.
I know it's too early. So it's fourth quarter of that game. No, game just ends. Our buddy Ryan Ross pops his head in the window. He goes, "I'm going to Mutts." So we all file out of the house. We start going down to Mutts. And as we're walking down the street, there's a mass of humanity running up Stewart Street. We're like, what the hell is going on? It's like a stampede. Like I'm Mufasa, I'm about to die, Lion King style. And it's because the cops are shooting their smoke grenades off.
Oh, yeah.
At all the students. So we're coming down the hill, and this mass of humanity is coming up the hill. It just, Morgantown.
The best.
Love you.
The best. And this was really before like everyone had a smartphone. Like iPhones and Blackberries were they're like, but a lot of like it wasn't the same. Like every single person's got their camera out filming everything like it is now. It was fantastic.
You know what, Uhler? The other night that was like this, not to wax poetic so nostalgically here, but was Osama Dead Night.
Yes.
When they got Osama.
And the craziest thing about that was it was a Sunday night during midterms week.
Yeah.
And so like no one was drinking really. And it was just like, wait, we got Osama bin Laden, and everyone just poured out into the streets, and John Flowers is dancing around in the middle of High Street with an American flag, and everyone's like, yeah, we got a final tomorrow, but USA.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best.
Okay, real quick. One more 2010 memory lane for you here. Sometimes you get an omen before things happen, okay? So that Thursday, our first game in the Big East tournament that year. That Thursday, before we play Cincinnati, the buzzer, another buzzer beater in that first game there. We lived again at Dadisman. You remember the staircase that was like from Dadisman up to Frat Row, like that staircase there? Well, those 2 fraternities on the side of that staircase, our freshman year, 2009, 2010, were both abandoned. I'm pretty sure that they've been like remodeled. I'm pretty sure they've been remodeled and occupied by now. But our RA on our floor told us, like, guys, you can go to this staircase right beside Dadisman. The fraternities are abandoned. Nobody ever goes there. You can drink, you can smoke, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about getting in trouble in the dorm rooms. Like, our RA told us that, like, the first week of school. And so that's where we would always like pregame out there before we would go down to the bars. We would smoke blunts out there every day, right? The Dadisman staircase, that was our spot. And if you were in school at the time and you lived downtown, you know what I'm talking about. Because again, before the fraternities remodeled that area, it was teenage wasteland. Like no one was ever there. The cops never came up there. You could do whatever. Well, maybe the cops did come up there, foreshadowing. It's that Thursday before the Cincinnati game, right? And we're waiting to go to Jared's house. Like Jared was, in class or they had something going on, whatever. And so it's the afternoon. It's, one of those nice, rare spring days, right? In March, and it's like 60 degrees out. And so me and a couple of my boys were sitting there up on the Dadisman staircase by the fraternities. And we got like a case of beer, and we were smoking like a joint or a blunt or something. And a UPD police officer came around the corner. And we're all like, oh, no. And he's like, hey, what's up, guys? What are you doing? And we chat him up for a minute. He was super cool. He's like, I don't blame you guys. He's like, honestly, I wish I could be drinking beers and smoking on something right now and getting ready for the game. And it's a beautiful day here in Morgantown. And he goes, I just had to come up here to make sure you guys weren't causing any trouble, but you're good. And just left. Like we're 18, 19 years old and we got a case of beer. And like I said, we were definitely smoking something. And this police officer was like, you guys are cool. I was just making sure that you weren't like, defacing property or anything. And I should have known then that it was going to be a good weekend. That was the way to start it off. Big shout out to that UPD officer if by somehow he's listening to this podcast.
You know what? He probably is. Our fan base is swelling here, and that brings me to this. Hit us up on the Twitter at Eers and Beers.
Yeah.
Like, what were your best party
Share
weekends?
some memories. Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you graduated before us, after us, if you're still in school, whatever. Best party weekends. Where you took to the streets. Let's hear them. And
maybe and if they're good, maybe we'll have to read some of those off on the next podcast. Yeah.
Because it'll make us think of stupid shit that we did too, I'm sure. And because listen, we all lived a different college experience in Morgantown. We all lived the same. Hit us up with the good ones.
My sister's about to be a D1 athlete at WVU, so her college experience might be a little different than yours and mine, but
What's she doing? What's she playing?
Cross country and track. Remember?
I think you told me that. You told me that. Yeah. I was trying to picture her dunking a basketball. Is what I was.
Dude, I'm going to like my high school too, but I'm going back next month. She has like her signing day and everything. Like gets to sit at the table and sign the.
She gets to pick a hat.
She gets to pick a hat. Well, she's already committed to WVU, but yeah, pretty sweet, huh?
You're proud, huh?
I'm so proud,
dude.
My little
sister. Tear up right now.
Cry, no, not right now, but I might in April when she has her signing day for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let us know those memories for sure. We'll get into some of those. Before we go here too.
JT.
I mean, how about a shout out to the baseball team, huh?
I mean,
big comeback walk off against Ohio State. Good
beat
start
the Buckeyes.
To the season.
How about that?
We gotta go to. They're playing Pitt at PNC Park in a couple weeks. We going?
Yeah, we're definitely going.
Beer burp here.
We're definitely going. I was just gonna suggest we head to the ballpark up Granville. We'll go.
Granville.
We'll go. We got
to talk a little. You're the baseball guy on this podcast. We got to talk a little baseball here on the pod maybe throughout the spring.
Listen, PNC Park backyard brawl, laying down bunts against Pitt.
Oh yeah, Maisie ball, baby. Give it to me.
You know what I was going for there. Laying down bunts against those
stinking Pitt Panthers.
I was gonna rhyme. JT Daniels, starting quarterback, day one, September 1st, Pitt, West Virginia, Heinz Field, against another transfer quarterback, Keaton Slovis.
Both from USC, although JT went to Georgia and then USC and then Georgia. You get it.
It really sounds like it's going to come down to money, right? Like if it's Mizzou and Oregon State, like come on. Come to West Virginia, buddy. If he comes, they can win 9 games.
Mizzou's got money. Mizzou's got money for sure, but do you really want to transfer from one SEC school to another? And then you got to go back to Athens, Georgia, and face your old team and get smoked by 30 points. Just come to the Big 12, buddy.
If he comes, they're winning 9 games. I'm telling you.
9 games.
9 games. They were
write it in stone.
They were a competitive quarterback away from winning 9 games last year. And no disrespect. I mean,
Yeah,
the guy was competitive, but
you're absolutely
you know what I'm
right.
talking about. An average quarterback away.
I said this is totally off base here, but I think most of the people know this by now. You know, you and I work in Pittsburgh. A lot of what we do for our job revolves around the Steelers. I host a show with former Steelers linebacker Arthur Moats, and I said to him when we were in break, like Steelers fans are melting down over this quarterback situation. Give me Rodgers, give me Russell Wilson, give me Deshaun Watson, give me somebody. I've had a Hall of Fame quarterback for 18 years, but I can't possibly live with the possibility of not knowing what's next or who's it gonna be. I'm melting down. I said to Moats, I was like, I had to watch Jared Deggy play quarterback for 3 years, all right? And these Steeler fans are panicking over not knowing who the next quarterback is going to be. I mean, just get it together, you knuckleheads. But that's a different conversation. You're absolutely right. An experienced guy like JT could make all the difference, and I'm with you. I'm changing my
1,
answer.
2, 3, 4, 5 stars.
5.
And
1,
experience.
2, 3, 4, 5.
I thought you were about to go like Feist. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Are we done?
I
we
think
done?
we're done. JT Daniels, starting
JT
quarterback,
Daniels.
backyard brawl, September 1st against those stinking Pittsburgh Panthers. We
Emergency
will do our,
podcast if he commits, by the way.
Oh,
We gotta get
100%. 100%. We will look if there's NIT, if there's whatever, we'll have more reaction podcasts. If there's not, next weekend, Crowley, we'll do our state of the program, you know, our deep dive into basketball and Bob Huggins and some of these more particulars and you know, the way forward, if you will.
That
sound like a
sounds
plan?
good. That sounds like a plan. And Neil Brown will be speaking here too because spring practice and everything. So
Oh yeah.
plenty to talk about. Maybe we'll get a baseball expert on, something you had mentioned to me in passing. I think
That's another thing you could tweet at us at Eers and Beers. Let us know that we need a WVU baseball expert to come on the show with us here. We'll figure it out.
Maybe
That's
we'll
the
get
night.
Maisie on.
I got my sister going to WVU next year. I've also got a very good family friend who's going to be in broadcasting going to WVU next year. So we're gonna have some boots on the ground on campus. We'll build this. We need to get a baseball correspondent. We need to get a wrestling correspondent. I'm our soccer correspondent, all right. But we need to get a volleyball correspondent. We're building it. It's going to be the Eers and Beers empire before too long. Just you wait.
The Eers and Beers Podcast Network.
Episode 53, a stress-free Sunday, but for different reasons than we all expected. Hit us up with those memories. Hit us up with your baseball thoughts and everything in between. He's Adam Crowley. I'm Wesley Uhler. Talk to you soon. Let's go Mountaineers.
Let's go drink some beers.